Okay, so the chapter is broken down into several sections. The two major sections of this chapter are how to select research to study and learn, and then how to actually read the research that's been selected. So when you're looking at what to select, you should be looking for research that has a combination of technical vocabulary and conventions of scientific writing. The research should be formal in its writing, and even though this makes it difficult to understand, it does present information in a more specific manner. This leads to the next idea, which is that for a piece of writing or research writing, the audience of the piece is important to note as well. The audience should be others in the same scientific field. So the author actually says that researchers should be writing for other researchers, which makes perfect sense when I think about it. Both of these ideas lead to the notion that when selecting a piece of research to read, one should be looking for a piece that is in an area in which the reader has academic credentials. So you should be able to academically understand what you're reading. That's the purpose. So it should match up. The piece of work should match up with the reader. The second part of the chapter presents appropriate strategies for reading the piece of research once it's been selected. The book suggests cooperatively with a colleague or a partner who can read and study the research with you, especially if it's the first time you are researching in this particular field. I think that our learning community within the course is a great example of that as we read similar texts and articles and reports. Researchers take on various roles which help to refine the ability to read and comprehend a piece of research. So the first is that researchers, as writers, addresses that all individuals write differently, and thus it can be comfortable and easy to read a work, or it can be cumbersome and difficult depending on the writing style of the author and that of the researcher. The second, researchers as workers, addresses the fact that researchers did the work involving the studying of a topic, gathering information, gathering data, doing in-depth research, collecting all of these things, thinking about all of these things critically, and then putting it into a piece of writing. In the same way, the reader needs to put the work in to read carefully and put effort into fully understanding all the information presented in a piece of writing. Finally, the reader as a consumer is a section in the chapter where it simply states that the author of a research piece should be respected, and to disrespect their work or the author themselves hinders the learning of the actual reader. In the final sections of the chapter, it creates an important union or bond between the writer of the piece of research and the reader. I really like this part because I feel too often that I am far removed from the author of a piece of research, and that disconnect sometimes can lead to my own doubts or my own lack of interest in the topic. But when a bond is created, there's a mutual respect, or there's a relatable topic or a relatable interest. The work can be read, understood, and used as a foundation for further learning. So I think that that's really important, especially in courses like these, as we continue as educators to learn more about our own field. We have to have a direct bond or interest in that. And if you don't, then the pieces that you're reading in your research aren't going to be as effective. There are two examples in the chapter of flowcharts that I thought were great. I'm a visual learner, so I really like these. They talked about how they're great to include in a piece of research, but also if they're not already embedded in a piece of writing, that the reader can create their own visuals in order to better understand what they're reading. Finally, the chapter briefly warns about what to not get stuck on when reading. So the 4 things they talk about is don't get stuck on understanding unfamiliar words. Don't get stuck on what's not included in the writing. Don't get stuck on statistics. And don't get stuck on the question, is this good research? So those questions should already have been answered. So that was chapter 3. I really liked it, and I hope it was helpful.